Hey everyone, great to see you here. I'm Wei and welcome to the video. Previously, I shared two workflows on OpenArt that use the Flux model to change backgrounds while keeping the subject's details intact. Today, I'm introducing a new and balanced version. So a quick recap. One of the previous workflows is based on the ControlNet Canny model from X Labs and has been downloaded 9,300 times. It stands out because it has a relighting function, meaning it can adjust how light falls on the subject. Like in this example here, you can see how the woman's leg is lit up by the light from the window, which makes the scene look more realistic. But it's a bit complex with a total of 108 nodes. The other workflow uses the ControlNet depth model developed by Jasper AI. It's simpler with just over 30 nodes and only takes about a minute to run on a 3090 GPU. The downside, the output image's aspect ratio is the same as the original, so if you want to change the proportion or reposition the subject, it's not ideal. Plus, the transition between the edges of the subject and the new background can look a bit off, almost like the subject is pasted onto the scene. To solve these issues, I've created an advanced version that offers more control. You can set the background size and aspect ratio however you like and adjust the subject's position to fit naturally. It also includes a step that uses image-to-image repainting so the subject blends seamlessly into the new background. Just like the earlier workflows, it still preserves all the fine details. For example, here's a product image we want to change. After swapping out the background, the text on the product is still sharp and readable. And there's an extra feature too. Let's check out an example. Here's the original image. Using this new workflow, we can place a crystal ball in the woman's hand and change the background to a starry sky. See how it turned out? You can also add other people, animals, or objects into the scene. Or, if you prefer, you can keep it simple and stick with just a new background. The only limitation is that it doesn't have a relighting function like the first workflow, but that also makes it much less complicated to use. I'll share links to all three workflows in the description below. Now let's take a closer look at how this new workflow works. I might skip some of the basics that were covered in my earlier videos, but don't worry, I'll link those below too if you need more details. Alright, let's start with the first group of nodes. Like the other two workflows, this group's job is to remove the original background and put the subject onto a neutral gray background. Most of these nodes are from the previous workflows, so I won't go over each one. Instead, let's focus on a couple of new nodes. First up, the Flux Resolution Calculator. This node sets the size and the aspect ratio of the new background. As you might know, the Flux model from Black Forest Labs supports resolutions between 0.1 and 2.0 megapixels. But here, you can set it up to 2.5 megapixels using the megapixel option, depending on your needs and your GPU's memory. The second option is where you set the aspect ratio. It offers several presets, but if you need something specific, just enable custom ratio and enter your desired ratio. After running the workflow, you can check the exact size of the new background using the Show Any node. Next is the Preview Chooser node. To use it, leave the mode setting on Always Pause. This stops the nodes after it from running while you are adjusting the layout of the new image. Keep tweaking the layout until it looks right in the preview area below. When you are satisfied, switching the node to Pass Through. Or, what I usually do is right-click and select Bypass to skip this node altogether once I'm done. Now, onto the second group. This group generates a new background using the Flux model combined with the ControlNet depth model from Jasper AI, similar to the simpler workflow I posted before. What's unique here are the nodes on the right side, which are used to restore the woman in the picture while keeping the added crystal ball intact. The key here is the select value in the Switch Any node. It lets you pick between the two backgrounds. Input 1 corresponds to the background without the crystal ball, while input 2 is the one with it. The Big Llama Remover node detects both the woman and the crystal ball as foreground elements and removes them from the background. But after a few tweaks, it's able to keep just the crystal ball in place. So, if you want to keep the crystal ball, set the select value to 2. Here's another example. We have a new background with a tiger in it. and we want to keep the tiger. Select value 1 removes the tiger, so we need to set it to 2 to keep the tiger and remove the woman instead. If you want your final image to include other people, objects, or animals in the background, always set the select value to 2, otherwise 1 is usually fine. For instance, if we want the background without the woman, setting the select value to 2 will give us what we want. Now back to the main workflow. You can fine-tune other parameters in this node to adjust the background if the default settings don't look right. Lastly, let's go over the final group. This section handles the image-to-image repainting using the Flux model, which smooths out the transitions between the subject and the background. The Flux model and other inputs pass through this bus node. What's special here is that the apply ControlNet node is connected to an upscaling model from Jasper AI. I've also developed a separate upscaling workflow for this model, which turns blurry images into high-quality visions. I'll link it below too. For this workflow, I use its layout control features to keep the subject's outline and proportions intact during repainting. I also found that if you set the scheduler in the sampler to careless, even a high denoise value won't mess up the details. But if you switch to something like SGM uniform, even a denoise strength of 0.3 can cause noticeable changes to the subject. Feel free to experiment with these settings. Since repainting can slightly alter the details, the 3 nodes on the right help restore them. I covered the logic behind this in the video on a more complex background replacement workflow, so I won't repeat it here. Take a look at the final effect. The light and shadows on the subject have shifted a bit, but the fine details are still preserved. That wraps up the introduction to this workflow. If you have any questions or suggestions, let me know in the comments. And if you found this helpful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.